Hey guys, it's Ryan Fowler with Inner Masculine Live. We have a good one today. I have an interview. It's pre-recorded, but it's with a high-value guy. Those of you who've been in the men group a couple years back, Body Language Mastery will know this guy, Jimmy. He's in Dallas, Texas. He did a session with me, but also we do an interview not only about his session, how it helped him, but we drop a bunch of truth bombs about achieving success, which he has. He's high net worth. I don't know if he wants me to say how high, but he's very successful, high value, top 3% income earner. His investments have done very well, so he's doing great. And we talk about success and how it's affected him, how it fixes. No amount of success fixes inner game. We're going to go into all of that, as well as him overcoming procrastination, limiting beliefs. It's about a 38-minute interview. So, by the way, guys, I know you guys make comments in the chat, and I'm making an extra effort. You can ask anything you want. If it's a question that needs answering, relevant to inner game, I'll do my best to answer it. So, ask away. I'm happy to pause the video, or at some point, any questions you guys have, put them in the chat. Inner game, any other related topic, hypnosis, overcoming procrastination, any of the other stuff, put it in the chat. I'll endeavor to answer it today. Before we get started, I wanted to help you guys be aware that I do have, in about 2 weeks now, an ebook coming out that's absolutely no charge. And so you're going to go to my website. Oh, let's see here. Well, let's see if it is not bringing it up in StreamYard, but I can bring up this other thing. So if you go to my website, innermasculine.com, you can sign up for a free ebook. Here it is. Here's the table of contents. Go to just like it says on the bottom of my screen, innermasculine.com/free-ebook. Go to innermasculine.com. You'll see free ebook in the upper right. Put in your email. When it's ready in 2 weeks, you get it no charge at all. How the subconscious mind works, why it keeps you stuck. You're going to understand the fundamentals, the blueprint of your subconscious, why it holds you back. We'll explain, the fundamentals of procrastination, limiting beliefs, addiction, all sorts of stuff, self-sabotage, what's really going on. So you see this table of content. Our brain pursues the familiar, avoids the unfamiliar. Stronger, pursues pleasure, avoids, number 3, avoids pain. This is like just really core fundamental stuff that to me seems pretty simple, but it explains an absolutely ridiculous amount of human behavior. You're going to see how this plays out in your own life. How our subconscious programs develop. Our brain uses pleasure to cover pain. How our subconscious affects behavior versus how our conscious mind affects behavior. What is the subconscious program? Everyone's heard of the subconscious. Almost no one knows how it actually influences you, affects you, what a subconscious program is exactly. The 5 core traumas, there's only 5. You may have all 5. You may have only 1. You may have it a little. You may have it a lot. You may have 3 of them. What are they? How might they apply to you and hold you back? 4 of these traumas trigger anxiety, procrastination, the 3 motivational archetypes, limiting beliefs. That's all in there too. The 3 motivational archetypes. Which one do you have? You might have all 3, but we almost always have one predominantly over the others. Talking about procrastination, limiting beliefs, self-sabotage. I'll also probably throw some stuff in there about addiction too. Addiction is just using pleasure to cover pain. Because that pain is in you, trapped trauma, it's always there, meaning you need to perpetuate the addiction and to keep covering the pain that is constantly there because it's in your subconscious. How getting it out can help with that. Now, again, I don't give medical advice. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm just explaining this to you. When people come to me, I work on their self-belief. So I don't diagnose you medically or work on any particular medical issue. But, incidentally, I have had people cure their addictions with what I do. It's just not my focus. It's not anything I claim to. I'm just making an observation, not a claim. Got to put that disclaimer in there because I'm not a licensed psychologist. But this is going to help you understand what is really going on in your core what really holds you back, because most people don't even have this clarity. And then you're going to see some steps to take if you want to actually fix this stuff up over your life. We're not just fixing stuff. We're taking bad subconscious programs out. We're putting the best, most optimal subconscious programs in. That's what I do if you book a session with me or get any of my self-hypnosis materials. So innermasculine.com/free-ebook. Sign up, put in your email. Be ready in about 2 weeks. You're going to get this no charge. And so now, without further ado, it's a bit of a long interview, so we'll go to this interview. But this isn't just about his hypnosis session. He's dropping all sorts of truth bombs here. High value man, Mike Horton. How to stop dwelling on past events. So there in hypnosis, there's a technique we use called Gestalt. Where you have, well, there's two things. If the past event is tied to a person you have resentment towards or anything unresolved with, you're going to have a conversation with that person in hypnosis. In hypnosis, your subconscious mind believes the conversation is real, and then we let go whatever is in you that's stuck in there, anger, resentment, whatever, bitterness, regret, disappointment. You keep dwelling on it because it's stuck in your subconscious, and it's, as long as it's there, you know, I did, I don't know, a week, 2 ago, I did live shows on your body, how your body keeps the score, how trauma gets stuck in your body. There are nerves and neurons throughout our body. There's neurons, not just nerves, but there's neurons on our heart. That's neuroscience. We have a second brain in our gut. In our entire torso, there's just as many neurons processing data in our torso as there is in our brain. And throughout your body, you can have not just nerves, but neurons. So this stuff can, I mean, the concentration, of course, massive amount in your brain, a lot just kind of throughout. It's not like any centralized organ. It's just neurons throughout your torso. It's concentrated in your gut that processes stuff, and it'll actually store it will store trauma, painful emotions and trauma tied to negative past events. So within hypnosis, with Gestalt, we can resolve that, have a conversation. Your subconscious believes it's real. You say what you need to say, let it go. But if it's past events that have trauma tied to them, that's not, you don't need to have a conversation with the person. We do something called regression to cause. We go back to that. We release that trauma. Once it's no longer, this stuff is actually biochemically stored in your body, in these neurons. So it's there. It's not just a thought in your head. You know, it is biochemically stored in your body, but we can release that. And then it's not in you anymore physiologically. And it's also just resolved cognitively, subconsciously, whatever. So you still have the memory, but now the memory doesn't have any pain, any anger, any of that negative stuff attached to it. You have the memory and you feel nothing. You feel neutral. Now you don't need to stop dwelling on it. It's been resolved. So Mike, to answer your question, that's what we do. That's what hypnosis does. You can do it with self-hypnosis. You know, I cured almost all of my stuff with self-hypnosis. It takes, you know, training to understand how to do it. But what you're asking about, Mike, I resolve all day, every day with people. It's what I do. And once that pain is gone, once the negative effect of that past event is gone, it won't keep coming up. If it comes up, you just like, it doesn't bother you at all. It's like, okay, that happened, but I have no pain there. And it doesn't hold you back at all. You keep moving forward. We're going to actually talk about some of what you're asking about, Mike, in this interview today with high value man, top 3% income earner, pretty much not just a high income earner, but wealthy, Jimmy here. So without further ado, we'll play this and I will endeavor to answer any other questions, comments you have when appropriate throughout this as well. So here we go. This is me and Jimmy. He's actually a pretty good friend of mine. He's going to visit me in Mexico at some point. And we'll take it about the minute 41 is when we start getting into it. So here we go.
I came to you looking to shed some, I think, limiting beliefs and get some clarity and maybe resolution around some issues that I have with kind of procrastination and sort of overcomplicating things. And the starting point to really kind of understand how what you do could help was watching the video that's hosted on your webpage.
What is toxic shame and how does hypnotherapy work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely watch that video of any guy that's watching this. You know, it's like, well, you know, how could this help me? It's like, well, watch that and see if any of it resonates with you.
Yeah. And which parts resonated with you?
Oh, definitely. I actually made some.
Just so you guys know, the video he's talking about is the very first oldest video on my YouTube channel in the video section about toxic shame. And yeah, anyone who 90% of people have toxic shame. I think everyone, if you're here, you're struggling with something, toxic shame is almost certainly part of the problem. Maybe not all of it, but almost certainly part of it. Go and watch that earliest video. It's going to clear a lot of things up for you. And it's probably going to resonate with you in a lot of ways, to some degree. Here we go.
Notes for this.
Oh, good. And while you bring it up, just to anyone listening, you can go to my website, innermasculine.com, and it's just the video on the homepage. Also on my YouTube video, it's the toxic shame video, which is really something 90% of people struggle with, which is some form of I'm not good enough, I don't feel as good as others, or I don't fit in, I don't feel like I deserve what I want, I don't feel worthy, capable. Any form of that is toxic shame as a core identity belief, like deep down. If we believe, some people just have a little bit of it. Some people have a massive amount of I'm a bad person, I hate myself. You know, that's an extreme manifestation. Now, and by the way, Jimmy, pretty high performing guy. You're a high caliber guy, very successful. But even in my experience, I have high caliber guys come to me, and we all have some parts in our inner world that maybe need some retuning, some cleaning out. You know, some just have parts, and some need a massive retune. But I'd say almost everyone could benefit from this. But keep going, Jimmy. Thanks.
Yeah, the themes in that video that resonated with me are validation seeking. So despite all that I've accomplished, you know, multi-$100,000 a year income, top performer in my field, top of my game, all of those things are not quite enough, you know. Feeling like I'm going through life wearing a weighted vest, like things are just harder than they should be. There's it seems like I'm carrying this load around on my back like a pack animal. And then the next thing that really resonated in that video was that attempting to overcome these things with fierce discipline works to a great degree, and my life is a testament of that. The accomplishments, the skins that I have on the wall are a testament to that. The zeros in my bank account are a testament to that. But there are limits to that willpower.
100%.
That's kind of the hard way, you know. And then other themes that resonated, you know, in the darkest periods of my life, driving towards pleasure, substance abuse, the avoidance of pain, the numbing of the senses, all of that, you know, resonated deeply. And then kind of on top of all of it, or under all of it, is just this fear and anxiety that holds me back from taking action many times. It just seems like it's so much harder to get started than it ought to be, you know, or it's harder to think of the logical first step in a progression of steps to accomplish a big, complex goal.
Yeah, and so if I can comment and maybe ask you a little further on that, what you just said. So see, guys, even high value men have room to improve, and we fix this for them. You'll see. It seems like you have this feeling like I'm not successful enough, and yet you become more and more and more successful, but that feeling persists. Is that right? Is that how it is?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what I do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, top 3% of income in the US, no debt, with the exception of the home that I've bought. You know, I mean, most people,
which you could probably pay off anytime.
well, yeah, right. You know, if you surveyed 200 average Americans, you know, some really large percentage of them would say that's like, it's perfect. You know,
Yeah.
perfect, flawless run.
You're successful
But
by pretty much anyone's definition.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is not to brag about my accomplishments, but to illustrate to the men that are watching this that if this resonates with you, the anecdote to it is not accomplishing more. It'll never be enough.
And so the reason for that, also, let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll talk about the weight you felt, and then we'll talk about the session and how that helped. If anything else you want to add. Our subconscious mind, you know, as you know, when we're children, we form core beliefs about ourselves, about the world around us, and these are subconscious programs. And what happens is by the time we're age 8, 75% of these beliefs are formed. By the time we're 14, 95% are formed. And our subconscious communicates these beliefs by just different feelings, by like anxiety, by that weight that you felt, by it never being enough. These are all feelings. It never feels like, man, I've accomplished so much, but man, I could do better. And why haven't I done this, yet? Focusing on maybe what you haven't accomplished, even though you've accomplished a ton. And so these programs are static. And so even though your outside world changes, you become more and more successful if these subconscious programs that formed as a kid and have been playing the same song over and over since you were a kid. Their static program plays over and over. And even though your outside world changes, it may have some effect on how you feel, but to more or less that song has been playing your whole life. Would you agree? Or
that's absolutely true.
Yeah. So, so we did a session, and we'll talk about this weight. What do you think that weight around you? Kind of like was it just kind of like a dead weight, like kind of requiring extra effort for you to power through the day, and that led to you procrastinating, or how did that weight felt like you were carrying? Tell me more about that.
It manifests itself as an inordinate amount of effort to get any new endeavor started. Now, the simplest of endeavors, like making a meal, not that big of a deal. But bigger, more long-term endeavors, either length of time it takes to accomplish it or the likelihood that it will succeed, are greatly impacted by that, that way of being, or that ever-present characteristic in my way of being.
Okay, so what do you think was going on? What do you think caused you to have this feeling that like held you back and made doing certain things so much harder? I'm pretty sure we figured it out in the session, but do you want to talk about more about what we discovered? And if you're okay,
it's a series of events that occurred in my childhood that sort of formed those core beliefs.
Yeah.
And it's things that when you look back, one way to look at them is to say, well, my gosh, I mean, these seem so insignificant. It's just, and everyone has these things in their past. So, I mean, what's the big deal, right?
Yeah.
And that's the attitude I had really up until the point that I met you and I got familiar with what you do. The thing about it is that it's not that you can't go on with things in your past that everyone experiences in some way or another, because we all do it. I mean, we
learn how to cope, we power through it.
we're grinding on. We're doing what we got to do, right? That's what
we may not
adults
be
do.
operating at our optimum, what we could be operating at, but we still.
That's the thing, right? So I mean, you know, you might look at it one way and say, well, my gosh, you know, I get to work every day and I get my mortgage paid on time and the grass isn't 10 feet tall and, you know, there's food in the refrigerator and, you know, that's life. That's the way it goes, you know. But what I've come to realize is that those small things to a child are much, much, much bigger. And they then create a lens through which you see the world for the rest of your life, unless you do some of this work.
Yeah. And that's just how our brain works.
Yeah. And it's really,
not just our brain,
I mean, unless you manage to be able to do this work yourself somehow intuitively, and I'm sure there are a small percentage of people that can kind of do that. The rest of us just walk around, probably, I guess I probably thought like, hey, those things that happened when I were really young, that wasn't good. But like, what can you do? You know, I mean, get over it, build a bridge, get over it, get on with it.
And I have a quote on my wall here. I don't know if you can read that. Crap. Sorry.
Yeah, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That is the best encapsulation of what I'm trying to articulate in an inarticulate way. And that's really it.
And yeah, so with our subconscious, we'll go through life and we'll have, like, you'll have a limiting belief, which is like, man, why is it so much harder to do this? Why do I feel anxiety when I think about this new task? Why do I feel tired by this weight holding me back? Or, you know, fears. And it's like, well, there's no reason for this fear. I know I can do this job. Why am I anxious about doing this job? Why don't I just do it? But all of those things we just talked about are based on beliefs we formed as a child that are now stuck in our subconscious. Many of these memories, some we remember and some are just, we don't even remember consciously anymore, but the programs are down there. And so we talked for a bit to really kind of find out what was going on with you. And then we did a session. And what did you think of the session? What was the session like for you?
The session was, you know, physically it was like 4 or 5 hours, and the
session was about 2, but we talked for 2 before.
Yeah, that's right. So the entire effort was probably 4 hours.
Yeah.
We talked for 2 hours before, and that was really to clarify these events in my childhood that would then power the work inside the session.
And when we were talking, it wasn't just cognitive, oh, well, this happened and that means this. We were also talking about, well, do you feel anything? What's this feeling that holds you back? Where do you feel it in your body? Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was interesting. One of the concerns that I carried into this whole event was that I wouldn't be able to really feel the emotions from these events, partly because they're so far in the past. I'm over 40 now.
Yeah.
So these things just sort of fade with time, things that you think you'll never forget. I mean, you do start to lose that detail, you know? And then the other concern is that maybe I'm trapped in this middle state where I've done enough work where they're not real damaging. But in doing that, I've now kind of divorced myself from the ability to maybe recall these things and to be able to have that sort of emotional recollection. And those were fears that I had or concerns coming into the work.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it is true. You know, I have a saying, and I didn't invent this. Other people say it. If you feel it, you can heal it, or you got to feel it to heal it. And these feelings that hold us back, we need to bring them up in the session so we get your subconscious mind focused on it. So then we can then tell it, get rid of this. And so you got to feel it. And so I understand you already have this understanding because you've done meditations and stuff before. So what happened though? How were there any issues in the session recalling the traumatic feelings attached to these early childhood programs, or what happened?
The attitude that I had going into it was that I would do my best to do the work. And what that also involved was letting go of some preconceived notion about maybe the intensity that would be necessary for me to feel these emotions in order for the work to work.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of let go of what I thought would be necessary for it to be effective. And so in doing that, I opened space so that with honest and forthright effort, what emerged would be enough and would work. The work would work.
Yeah. Now in the session, I asked you, we tried to ramp up this trauma, and do you remember how high we got it? Scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I think it was like a 7.
Got it to a 7, which is pretty strong. And honestly, you're not a guy who was, beaten every day as a child. You're not going to have the 10 out of 10. All we want to do is get it as strong as we can to where we're connecting to whatever is there. And it was about us. I think the issue was a 7 out of 10 issue. It wasn't a 10 out of 10. Do you feel like we fully connected to it, or was there more there that we didn't connect to?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of hard to say because it hasn't been very long.
Yeah.
But I would say that I trust your expertise and I did my best.
Yeah.
And the combination of those two things are going to yield results.
Very true. And so what were the results for you? What did you notice when we were done?
I was tired when we were done.
Yeah.
I was tired and I was ready for bed.
Yeah.
Immediately, though, the next day, I could tell that there was this very subtle but powerful shift. So it's not overt like winning a $500 million cash lottery. That's a very overt, visceral, tornado that you get tossed headfirst into. This was much more subtle. It was as if the gravity on Earth had lessened just a little bit and it was much easier to walk around. And so I found myself able to move very quickly through medium difficulty work tasks that I probably would have easily procrastinated starting until they were getting closer to having to be due, on the calendar. And that was kind of shocking because that's a big change for me. In other words, one of the ways that I work is under pressure, and I'll create those conditions to sort of pull that performance out. And this, I just sat down, made a list, went through it, and it was very simple. The other really visceral manifestation of that subtle change is that I immediately started on some work on my house, some renovation work, and just moved through that with the greatest ease. Like, was able to make a list of all the things that needed to happen, started executing the ones that weren't blocked by others, and I've got more than half of it done. And it's been like a little over a week, and I've had to work and do a bunch of other stuff at the same time. So really just an incredible shift in terms of the utilization of the time in the day. So before we got on for this, I had about 40 minutes between when I stopped working and when this started, and I needed to stop to take a shower. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I went out and cut a couple of pieces of material, measured them, cut them, and then put the equipment back away. And I was so satisfied. I was like, hey, I only got to work 40 minutes, but I got some stuff done, and that's as good as it could be. And I can accept that. It's great. 40 minutes is 40 minutes. And so it was that, just being able to do that and not live in some sort of story. Well, it's only 40 minutes, so we'll just do it tomorrow. Or, it's really not worth getting both saws out for that. And, there wasn't any of that. I just, I accepted it and did what I could.
Did it. Yeah. So this kitchen or this home project, how long have you been meaning to do that? They have been putting it on.
So a little backstory. I started the living room and got about half of it done. And then the other half of that room sat unfinished for over a year.
Okay.
And then this last summer, the end of the summer, I finished that room completely, and it's great. And then I didn't do any work, and this turn of this new year, I was like, I'm going to redouble my efforts on the house and really get some work done here where this thing's ready to sell as soon as possible, so I can move on kind of to the next stage of my life. And there's the breakfast room, and then eventually the kitchen. And not much had happened, and then I did that session with you, and it was so easy to get started. I get so much pleasure out of it. I love how it's coming out. I can move through it with grace. It's the greatest thing. So this is
what happens, guys. You have crap in you, weighing you down. You get rid of it one session, boom, he's now just kicking more ass. We just get you unstuck. This is what we do. Get you unstuck, so now you can go and get what you want. Love it. Even high value men like Jimmy benefit from this.
It's been very hard. It's not hard work, and I can learn how to do all of it if there's parts of it that I've never done before. But just getting started and maintaining some type of momentum just seems to take way too much effort. It's just an inordinate amount of effort.
Do you think it was do you know what it was subconsciously holding you back? I mean, there's an anxiety,
I think
but there's something underneath an anxiety. What's that?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I think it's not knowing the outcome and facing a risk of some sort of failure, large or small.
That's a pain agent. That'll cause anxiety. Keep going.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing that kind of links to the procrastination.
100%.
Yeah. There's no I can do things without judgment of myself. I can start these projects, they're just clicking along. I've expanded the scope, no big deal. There's a couple other things I want to do that'll raise the value of the house. And I'm just, it's like my identity, my core identity has been decoupled, it seems,
from your accomplishments.
Yeah.
Your value is now just who you are.
Yeah.
Your value, you have amazing value for being Jimmy. You don't have
it doesn't mean that you're just not gonna do anything at all because of that development, right? It means that you can move through things that you've never done before that have some sort of uncertain outcome. And it doesn't mean anything about you. And it opens this entire world of possibility
100%.
that stood gated by that set of core beliefs that are then reprogrammed by the work that we did.
That is an incredibly profound and important insight right there that Jimmy had. Very, very, very. We work on your core identity. If your success is not tied to your intrinsic value for who you are, that's what gets you unstuck. Now, if I do this, doesn't work out, I'm still awesome. You get that in your core. That's the core of what we did here. And this helps so many people at such a fundamental level. What he talked about right there solves a ridiculous amount of internal issues. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous amount. So I'm going to explain a very core concept for whoever's listening, and then you tell me to what degree this applies to you, if at all, James. So the concept is with one manifestation of toxic shame is I'm good enough if I do this, my value is tied to what I do. And that kind of puts us in a precarious situation, because if we endeavor to do something and we fail, we screw that up. If our value is tied to what we do, if we fail, then that means I'm a loser. I'm a failure. If my identity is tied to what I do and I fail at something, means I'm a failure, because my identity is tied to that. And so when we see a task that we need to do, even if there's only a small possibility at messing it up, and this is especially true for anything new that we're not familiar with, but it could be stuff we do all the time too. If our mind thinks, well, there's any potential for failure, procrastination is largely caused by anxiety, dread, fear. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. At least in my case.
I mean, sometimes we just don't want to do something, but if we have some desire to do, at least a little desire to do it, or we know we need to do it, why don't we do it? Well, because there's a dread, fear, anxiety of some sort that makes us want to avoid it. And the concept is our brain is designed to drive us towards pleasure, but above all, most importantly, our brain is designed to steer us away from pain. And this is evolutionary. This is how our minds evolved, because pain in the past could get us killed. You get cut, the cut gets infected, you die. You know, they didn't have antiseptics and stuff they have nowadays. Or you eat an unfamiliar plant, you know, and that unpoisonous plant, maybe it kills you. So people who learn to avoid pain survived, you know, throughout the entire evolution of the human species. And when we've always been in, you know, even hunter-gatherer times in tribes, and if you know, that's where the whole toxic shame is. Well, I can't go against the tribe, and because then they could kick me out and then I could die. So there's kind of a desire to prove our value. But if we tie failing to, you know, our value, then if we do something and we fail, it means we're no good. That's very painful. And our brain is designed to get us to avoid pain. So it sees a task. And it's like, there's a chance I might fail at that task. So our brain says, well, that could lead to pain. I'm going to give him a ton of anxiety so he won't even do it. And then no chance to fail, no pain. What we did is we took that original belief, we located the painful emotion that is tied to that belief of my value is tied to what I do. And that's why no matter what you did, you always had to do more. You know, what you did was yesterday. Now I need to keep accomplishing to be good enough. It's just never enough. So what we did is we said, you have value just for who you are, and you have immense value just for who you are. And whether you succeed or fail, failure is a learning opportunity. You're just practicing, it's growing. Biggest life lessons can be learned through failing. It does not affect your value. And so now now if your brain sees a task, it's not thinking, if I fail, it means I know good. It's now thinking, I have value just for who I am, whether or not this succeeds or fails. Now, some people think, well, if I don't have this fear driving me forward, then maybe I just won't even do anything. But I guess first off, do you think what I said applies to you at all?
I think it's a variation.
Okay.
The variation is that if I start something and I don't finish it by some arbitrary deadline that I've set in my mind, that means that I'm no good.
Yeah.
So if I don't ever start anything, then there's no possibility that I will miss that arbitrary deadline or some other bar or benchmark that is internal, that could be unique to every guy and their circumstances. But the fundamental components are, if I don't start, then X won't happen, and that prevents whatever pain is associated with
you not meeting your deadline. Yeah.
And whether it be quality or a timeline or both or some variation of that.
So would you say it's fair to say that I described the general concept, but you're saying this is how that general concept applied in my instance? Is that right?
Yeah, it's the same concept. The manifestation is slightly different, but it's really it's a distinction without much of a difference. Let's put it that way, or any different.
And so that pain, that potential for pain is gone now. And so would you say your anxiety is 100% gone, 80%, 50%?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, it's a situation where there might be a moment of anxiety, but the intensity is very low. And I'll attempt to kind of locate where it is in the body and think about it for a minute, and think, why is this coming up? Where is this coming from? And it'll basically disappear within, 10 minutes or something like that, without me having to really do anything at all.
Nice.
Other than that little mental exercise that may take 10 or 15 seconds.
Perfect. So, Very good. So, were there any other benefits you realized, or how helpful was this to you then? And were you surprised by it? What are your thoughts about how this session benefited you?
I think it's been an immense benefit. And I think I'm just starting to see the fruits of the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's ask me again in 6 months and we'll see what else has occurred, right? And I think
I'll
it'll
probably
be
do that, man.
net positive, right?
I
Right.
have
Let's
like
do
3
that.
or 4 guys I've interviewed like 6 months after.
Yeah, so we should do that for sure.
By the way, I've stayed friends with Jimmy. I used to live in Dallas. We were both in the Dallas area, and yeah, it was permanent benefit for him. It's just great to I formed so many friendships doing sessions for people. And some of them I don't hear from in a long time, and once in a blue moon, I'll hear from them. Some I never hear from, and then some become really good friends. It's crazy. It's one of the best parts of my job is the friendships I make, and Jimmy's a good friend, man. So, but I've been able to keep tabs on him, and and he's doing great. The benefit he got is permanent.
I just find it's just much easier to do the things that I want.
Nice.
And there, when you don't have that weight that you're carrying, or all those stories and that mental overhead running constantly,
Mm-hmm.
there's this great sense of openness and space and lightness that's overtaken my being, and it's very pleasurable. Like it's everything is really kind of effortless at this point.
Yeah, man, all that crap is gone. And now for me, how I look at it is we have this much energy every day. If we have anxiety limiting beliefs, it takes up some of our energy is just dealing with that crap. So now instead of being here, now you're here, and
it's an instant upgrade.
Yeah,
it's an instant upgrade. It's like bolt-on power for a car, where it's when it rolls out of the garage with the bolt-on modifications, it's instantaneous power.
You just put that. You don't need a year of therapy. Instant upgrade. That's how we do it. Turbo in you, baby.
Yeah, bigger turbos.
I love that phrase because in about a week and a half, I'm giving a presentation, and the name of the presentation is Upgrading Your Core Identity, which is basically what we did. And you already had a lot of good in your core identity, but we found a part that wasn't working for you, and we tuned it up. And it's an honor and pleasure working for you. And the only other thing I'll say, James, is now what we exercise is just self-awareness, because we're like layers of the onion. We peeled one layer back, has been peeled back, gotten rid of. Through time, you may notice other stuff crops up. You just be aware of it, and pay attention to it. And these audios I gave you, the trauma clearing, where you focus on the negative emotion, you take it into a session, you ramp it up, and then you send it away. That's going to clear other stuff for you too.
I'm watching for it. So when I was driving to the gym, and there was a little bit of fear that came up around a windfall that's coming, and I was sitting at a light, and I was thinking to myself, why would you feel fearful about that? And what it is that I'm fearful that I won't have the wisdom to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And that's purely a limiting belief. I do have the tactical knowledge to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And I have the discipline to make the most of it. So that's a false belief that's cropping up. That is that there is nothing to learn from that. There is nothing valuable that's coming out of that,
Yeah. And this is very good to highlight here, because you told me when you first came to me, you were worried about, am I going to feel the emotion so that I can connect to the subconscious program and clear it out? Anytime you get triggered with something like what you just told me, that was a trigger about, okay, I still have an aspect of, not having the wisdom in me, maybe doubting myself. When you feel that negative emotion, that night, you just when it happens, you pay attention to it. Where do I feel it in my body? What is it about? That night, you listen to my audio, and you reconnect to that emotion you felt earlier. That is a tool for you. You get triggered, you feel the emotion, doing audio, you're going to be able to ramp it up because it was recent. It just happened earlier that day, and then you can send that away. So when we get triggered, it is actually an opportunity to feel stuff that might otherwise be hidden. And it is conscious now. We're aware of it and can feel it now. And that means we can clear it out. Because you're right, if we can't feel something, if you have subconscious program deep down and you're not feeling anything, you're not connecting to the program, we can't clear it.
Give it a chance.
Yeah.
Give it a chance. You know, come without any preconceived notions, and the impact is dramatic. It's just something else.
Cool, man. Well, it's an honor and a pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to add, James?
No, I think that was a good kind of debriefing on what it is and how it's impacted me.
Okay, thank you, sir. That concludes our interview, and thanks for sharing your story. I appreciate. All right, so that's that. Now, I do have something I want to say, guys. So I know, you know, I do these, you know, interviews. Most, not all, but a lot of them are pre-recorded. And I know there's some stuff in these interviews is like pretty redundant. You guys, regular guys on the show, you know, hear some of these themes over and over again. But I just feel a need to put more and more client interviews, testimonials up, because this stuff is so powerful, so powerful, and I need to show the receipts. I just want to show you guys over and over again. This is an upgrade, man. I upgrade, and some guys are really struggling and really need this stuff, you know, to get their core self-belief, inner beliefs right, so that they're unstuck, so that they can move forward. But some people like Jimmy, you know, living a pretty damn good life, pretty productive overall, in some ways very productive, top 3% income earner. That windfall he was talking about happens, so now he's like upper class. He's not upper middle or any of that. He's an upper class guy in, you know, in the socioeconomic status, and a great guy, you know. So pretty much anyone can benefit from this. We're optimizing your subconscious. It's kind of like a bell curve. You have a few people who are extremely traumatized, and, you know, more that are like severely traumatized, but not extreme. Then you have a bunch of people in the middle in the bell curve. These are people who, you know, they're going through life. They're doing okay, but they still got a medium amount of bad subconscious programs in them, just because they had, you know, very few people have perfect parents, like very few, or parents that are, you know, close to perfect, or anywhere near close to perfect. There are a few people that got very lucky on the other side of the bell curve. They had a really good upbringing, but most people are in the middle, have some trauma. And if you, that's why people procrastinate. A lot of people procrastinate. A lot of guys have approach anxiety with women. A lot of people play it safe and don't take the risks that ultimately, if they take these risks, like starting a business or whatever, is ultimately going to lead to a much more satisfying life. But people don't take those risks. They play it safe, and they end up at the end of their life with some regrets, being unfulfilled, not getting everything they want, thinking, oh, what if I would have done this or that? You know, people having anger in them that gets them into trouble at times, you know, or just whatever. Everyone, I mean, 90% of people have some significant stuff in them. So I'm showing you this to show you don't have to do years of therapy for procrastination, limiting beliefs, you know, this other stuff. You can get an instant upgrade, just like Jimmy did. And even people like Jimmy are benefiting from this. I benefited from this massively. I still have a couple small things in me to clear. There's always just little things here and there, even if you've been doing this for a while. So that's our show for today. Just wanted to add another testimonial. And honestly, he dropped some pretty good truth bombs as well. As no matter how much success you get, you don't fix your inner world, you're still going to feel not good enough. You know, he's another voice adding to that. So if you feel not good enough, doing the work and getting success, it's nice. It's not going to fix your problem. Going inward, doing what we did with Jimmy, that fixes your problem. And that puts you in an even better position to even be more productive and kick more ass and then live just a better life, you know. But it starts with your inner world. You get your inner world to a certain point where you have a certain amount of self-belief that gives you a certain amount of strength and resilience and not being held back by all this negative crap. And then you just totally take it to the next level. Or do whatever you want to get what you want. It's not what other people say you should want. It's what you want. So that's our show for today. Thanks, guys, for watching. Everyone has a subconscious mind that is a supercomputer. But like any supercomputer, it's going to run whatever programs it's told to run. And most people have a significant amount of negative programs in them that are holding them back. Get those out of you. And then once you get the benefit, permanent benefit, benefiting you the rest of your life, all you need to do is get better programs in, and then you have this supercomputer, your subconscious mind. Neuroscience has measured it, processes 1,000 times more per second than your conscious mind. Now it's running good programs, directing 95% of behavior. That's also neuroscience. So you fix that supercomputer, you already have good programs in it, and now you can be just like any other high-value performing person, or even better than many of them. So you already have that supercomputer. We just need to fine-tune it, get the bad stuff out, put the good stuff in. And what this means, you have the supercomputer, so you really do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thanks, guys.